I'd like to call to order the Charter Township of Chesterfield regular Township Board meeting for Tuesday, October 28, 2025 at 7 p.m. to order. Could we all please stand, face the flag, and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? Item 3, roll call. Clerk Berry.
Supervisor Kersten.
Here.
Treasurer Elliott.
Here.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Joseph.
Here.
Trustee Hornberger.
Here.
Trustee Vosberg.
Here.
Clerk Berry is here.
Item 4, the approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Clerk Berry. Is there any? Clerk Berry, would you call the roll?
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Hornberger.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott. Aye. Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Item 5, presentation. There is a presentation tonight. Clerk Berry.
5A is to administer the oath of office to new police officers Isabella Bullish and Hunter Askew.
Director Bassett, podium's yours.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Isabella Bullish and Hunter Askew to come on forward, please. So it's an exciting day for us for a number of reasons. Isabella Bullish was one of our cadets, went through the academy, finished top 10 in her class, top 10% in her class, actually more than top 10, top 5. So we're really excited to be bringing her on as well. Hunter comes to us from Detroit Police Department, spent some time there. We appreciate them training him, and now he's going to come out here and join us. So we're excited for both of them to come out and join us. Now today is obviously an exciting day that you spend with your family, but the reality is this is a very, very hard job. There's a whole slew of officers behind me, and they'll be happy to tell you there's a lot of highs in this job, there's a lot of lows in this job. I want you to celebrate today, but also remember why you got into this job, and that's to serve our community and serve those that need us the most. So with that, I ask the clerk to administer the oath.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of police officer
of police officer
in and for the Township of Chesterfield,
in and for the Township of Chesterfield,
County of Macomb,
County of Macomb,
State of Michigan,
State of Michigan,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, officer.
With that, Isabella, who do you have pinning your badge? All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Hunter, who will be doing your badge? Congratulations, both. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Director. Welcome aboard, both of you. Director, you have the group that will wait till the exit. Item 4, department reports. Director Vanderson, I think you're up.
Good afternoon, evening. Typically, I come in October or maybe late September and bring to you trick-or-treating hours. Last year in 2024, the Township Board decided to do an in perpetuity trick-or-treat hours. And so today is just a very quick and official start to trick-or-treating and start to Halloween for this year. So in Chesterfield Township on October 31st, the official hours are from 6 to 8 p.m. We recommend trick-or-treating hours. So we just remind everyone to be safe and enjoy the holiday. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. Item 7, public comments on agenda items only. I'm sorry. Trustee Joseph, go ahead.
Just a quick update from the Senior Advisory Committee. We met on 10/20. A number of issues that maybe the board's interested in, but they're planning their Christmas party. The issues that were, I think, most excited to share about seem small, but we typically at our meetings, supervisor has structured it in a way that the commission members bring feedback from seniors, and during that process we can deal with a number of issues that are, big deals to the participants at the senior center, whether it be the senior center here or the activities at the community center. And one of the things that was raised at our meeting was the card players who, if you've ever been to the senior center on Tuesdays or Thursdays, you know that that place is pretty packed with card players. And in the renovations, I know that it's slated for some improvements, but they were dealing with an issue with the blinds. Just a simple problem with the blinds, but on sunny days, they couldn't see their cards, and it was obvious that the blinds needed to be replaced. Several broken, missing, and the process for any expenditure that exceeds $5,000, it typically is then referred to F&O. F&O will evaluate, take bids, whatever it needs to be, and then it comes to the board. This was a problem that, again, minor, but big to them. We were able to immediately, from Monday night to Tuesday morning, Supervisor and I had a conversation. Josh was notified. He immediately went over there, and we're just very happy to resolve this issue. The bids do not exceed the $5,000 mark, and so that was an improvement that was made immediately. Again, not earth-shattering, but it was a very big deal to them, and they appreciate the opportunity to have a senior advisory committee where the seniors have direct access to, they always have access to the department head, but to the board, and to be able to get things done quickly was very much appreciated. So overall, another great meeting with the seniors, and they are very, very happy with the improved community center and a split, kind of a hybrid between some of the activities that take place here and some of the larger activities that take place over at the community center. So great meeting on the 20th. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. This might be just an interesting time to remind, and anybody out there in the gallery who can still hear this, the pen that we use, that all the officers use, and anyone who's sworn into office here in Chesterfield, just for those of you who don't know, it's an interesting tip. This was actually crafted out of a tree that is approximately 100 years old that's been in Chesterfield Township. So literally when we sign our names with this pen, we sign our oath of office. We're literally writing ourselves into Chesterfield history. So it's a pretty special pen, and that's why we use it. Department reports, a very exciting week in the clerk's office. Again, there's always something going on, but I'm very, very proud to share with the board and the public that on behalf of the clerk's department, I have received two very prestigious awards this week. One of them was the Certificate of Award as a Response Advocate from the Michigan Fair Election Institute in recognition of outstanding dedication and exemplary service in maintaining accurate voter rolls through the removal of redundancies. There were only 14 clerks statewide who received this distinction. I was very, very proud and very honored to be one of them. Secondly is the Michigan Townships Association Certificate of Excellence. We actually received that on October the 8th, recognizing the exemplary performance of the Chesterfield Charter Township Clerk's Office. The MTA defines a Township of Excellence as a strong, vibrant community governed by a township board that adheres to best practices and delivers quality programs and services to achieve community-driven goals. And then there was a very nice article that was written with a headline of Chesterfield Charter Township receives Township of Excellence accolades for election administration. So congratulations to all of Chesterfield and specifically to our clerk's department and our election workers, everyone who participated in making those distinctions possible for us. Also, an update on our ADA grant application. The township, through our clerk's department, applied for an ADA accessibility grant on July the 14th. That grant application was reviewed and approved on September the 15th. We expect the funds to be received by mid-November, with construction commencing shortly thereafter. Also, the issue of ranked choice voting has become a topic in the media and in the news. And on November the 17th, 2025, the election administration team will meet with Rank Michigan Vote and the Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks to discuss the implications of ranked choice voting and its potential impact should it be enacted at the state level. Following this meeting, our clerk's office will prepare a formal response and provide a subsequent update to the board and the public. The clerk's office remains committed to staying informed of election law changes and ensuring the qualified electorate is kept apprised in a timely manner. Lastly, I'm very proud and very pleased to inform the board that we have had a very successful project launch and department engagement with our records management project in anticipation of the implementation of our full Laserfish suite of offerings in our electronic content management system. Very, very, very important for maintaining our records properly, and I thank the board for their continued support of that item. It will make our workforce more effective, more efficient, and be able to serve residents more quickly than we do now. Departments received records training specific to their retention schedules. They were given a file structure template and proper document naming conventions. The department liaisons and deadlines were established, ensuring accountability and consistent communication. Secondly, we standardized all of the folder structures. That has been completed as far as the implemented departments go. Digital and physical folder systems were created based on the DTMB, which is the Department of Transportation Management and Budget for the state of Michigan, retention schedule, and verified with the Clerk's Department. This provides a unified organizational framework for all future records management activities. Third, the records inventory and gap identification is underway, and departments are currently reviewing existing records and identifying files not covered by their retention schedules. Those unscheduled records will be compiled, and a draft list of agency-specific records will be submitted to the state of Michigan for approval next year. Our upcoming focus is forms review, renaming records, and migration. The next phase over the next 5 to 10 weeks will involve identifying and updating departmental forms, renaming files using standardized conventions, and migrating records into the new folder structures. Departments will coordinate with the clerk's department to address any concerns, questions, or inconsistencies. The end goal remains full compliance with state retention standards and standardization in preparation of our Laserfiche implementation. Thank you.
Move on to item 7, public comments on agenda items only. There's a 3-minute time limit. If you would, please state your name for the record. Is not required. Public comments is open.
Joe Kadich, I live on Sutton. I'd like to suggest that your implementation of the basic accounting function of going to special assessment districts be brought out to the public on a public forum. I wrote through this thing. I'm not a lawyer. Thing that bothers me on here, number one, is that according to what I read, if you put something on a basically capitalization project, put it on that list, and it comes up before the board for funding, even if there's no funding there, all you have to do is say, we're going to put this on a special assessment district. And it gets included on the tax forms, or tax rolls. Am I mistaken in that? I am? Okay. Well, I'd like somebody to clarify that. That's a particular point that I've got, that it's unsettling. Most special assessment districts, if you're going after something, you get the area to sign off on it. If you're going to bring for service road and that, here you're saying you're going to create a district, and all you have to do is say, well, it's the whole township. And therefore, I'm putting it on the rolls as a tax. It bothers me. Thank you.
John Speaker, Chesterfield Township. In regards to the bill run, we were making progress a few months ago, and it looks like we're back to the same old. Anytime anything's spent on luncheons, plane tickets, hotels, conferences, which there was plenty of that in this bill run from various departments. Again, we need to go back and put a name on there. I don't think that's asking too much. I think the taxpayers have a legal right to know what we're spending our money on and who's going to these events and where our money is being used up at. The other issue that I have, again, and this is a continuous thing, is the majority of this board continues to waste and spend our money. Again, I can't emphasize enough that our money should be spent on essential items. My good friend, Mr. LaFata, was very adamant about that, spending money on essential items and not spending money on non-essential items. This board seems to focus on non-essential items. For example, parks and recs. We need to think about our infrastructure. We need to think about our roads. We need to think about our public safety department. There are so many things that we need to focus on before we start pouring. We went from a budget of 200,000 in Parks and Recs to over $1 million. It is ridiculous. And how much of that population? It's less than 20% of the population. You're spending money on less than 20% of the population. The other thing that I'd like you to do is when you vote, I'd like you to speak your vote and then cast your vote. The residents, you cannot see that up there, and it's hard for the people at home to see how each individual elected official voted. On agenda item E, I totally disagree that the employees should be paying $400 out of their health care. You guys gave yourselves a 13 to 20% raise, and now you want the lowest employees to pay $400 for their health care? That is absolutely ridiculous. And as far as agenda item A, where you're going to go in closed session, I ask you to keep in mind and be very considerate of the negotiations and be fair in these negotiations. Our public safety, I don't know anybody that's gotten a 13 to 20% raise like you guys have. Well, let's give them 13 to 20%. They deserve it. They risk their lives every day for each and every one of us in this township. They're the ones that deserve the 13 to 20%.
Thank you, sir. Any more comments from the public? Item 8, the consent agenda. Clerk Berry.
All items under the consent agenda are considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items. If a discussion of any item is required by a board member, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of October 14th, 2025. B, approval of the payroll report for week ending October 8th, 2025. C, approval of the payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department. D, approve the request from the IT Department to renew ARC GIS subscription services. And E, approve the request from the IT Department to renew NearMap subscription services.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Motion by Clerk Berry. Is there any support?
Support.
Trustee Hornberger, discussion? A motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Hornberger, to approve the consent agenda as read. Item 8A. Would you please cast your votes now? The display will reflect on the screen when all votes are cast. Item passes 7-0. Item 9, public hearings. There are no public hearings scheduled tonight. Item 10, the regular agenda. Item 10A.
Item 10A is to approve a recommendation by the Finance Department to set a public hearing for November 12th, 2025, to hear comments on the proposed township budget for the fiscal year 2026.
Is there a motion to approve item 10A?
Move to approve.
Trustee Rosberg, supported by Trustee Joseph. Discussion? Just so everyone is aware on the budget, you have the draft form that was emailed to you. You have the capital. We've scheduled meetings. There is another few closeout meetings this week. It is my goal that you all will have by end of business or beginning of business day Friday to have the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget in your emails and available for discussion. Any further comments? I have a motion by Trustee Vosberg, supported by Trustee Joseph, to approve item 10A. Please cast your votes. Results will appear on the screen when all votes are cast. Motion passes 7-0. Item 10B.
Item 10B is to set a public hearing for November 12th, 2025, on objections to operation and maintenance of detention basin and approval of the revised spread of the special assessment roll for Ruby Subdivision Detention Basin SAD.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Is there any support?
Second.
Clerk Berry. Ms. Bouvet, you want to explain this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. If you recall, back on October 23rd, this was the retention basin for Ruby subdivision that was approved by the board. However, upon further review, we discovered an agreement, which is included in your packet, and it specifies that 34% of the cost should be attributed to the 5.6 acre parcel, and 66% would be attributed to the 33 individual lots located in the subdivision. So we decided that it would be best to bring it back to the board for review and do another public hearing so that that agreement that is in your packet would be followed. That Township signed that agreement back in 1993.
Thank you. Discussion from the board? Thank you for bringing this forward. And again, this is an entire process that we took on a couple of years ago, reviewing all the SADs and the ones we're responsible for and the ones that are established, making sure that the documents are in line. And obviously, with the growth of the community, districts have changed, so we'll continue to do this. This was an oversight on our part, so we're re-notifying it and going through the process again. Any discussion?
Just a,
Trustee Joseph?
yeah, just a quick question. What is the ballpark change in the contribution from the residents with the inclusion of this, with the enforcement of this agreement?
That's a great question. As I outlined in your packet, it does say that the residents were paying equally over the 34 parcels of $1,065. With this change, the new revised cost would be $740 per parcel for those 33 lots. The larger lot is going to be much more. They're going to take on the brunt because it's 5 acres, and that's $11,800.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the inclusion in the packet. Sometimes our residents don't see the entire packet, and they go, what is the township doing here? There's a change in the SAD. This was a change really for the better, for the majority of that district, and this document is a game changer for a lot of people. That's a 30% reduction at a minimum for the majority of the residents there, and this is a big improvement. So thanks for bringing that forward, and I think the proper step is to make it public, and the public hearing on the 12th, I think, will be welcome news for the Ruby Court SAD people, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any further questions? I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Clerk Berry, to approve item 10B. If you would please cast your votes. Votes will appear on the screen once all votes are cast. Item passes 7-0. Item 10C.
Item 10C is to approve a recommendation to install 8 additional security cameras at the community center through Able Electronics at a cost of $21,678.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Support.
Trustee Joseph. Mr. Sonnenberg, floor is yours.
Good evening. Within your packet, there's a detailed map that shows you where the cameras are going to be positioned, and also a detailed breakdown of the cost for each camera and the labor to put the package together. We just feel like with the size of the community center, this is a huge add for us to be able to see around the areas that we can't currently see.
I'm just going to add on the back of that, in light of the environment we're in and what we see around us, this is just another security enhancement throughout the township that we have discussions on. If you notice at the township facility here, our signage and access points are beginning to be limited. And we had this discussion, Trustee Joseph, as you indicated, at the senior committee at the community center. Access points and egress points have to be at least monitored and controlled, and we're taking a step in that direction. So,
I would also like to add one additional thing. I would thank the board for the cameras at Brandenburg. We use those on a regular basis. I mean, there's been a series of just minor issues, but it's always nice to have those cameras to go back to, so thank you.
And just a quick comment, they're being monitored back at Public Safety.
Yes, they are.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, Clerk Berry?
Just a quick question, Josh. Is this in the 2025 budget? This is coming out of our 2025
It
budget?
is, yes, we have
Thank you.
money in our building grounds and maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion? I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Joseph, to approve item 10C. If you would please vote. Results will appear once all votes are cast. Motion passes 7-0. Item 10D.
Item 10D is a request by the Accounting Department to approve and adopt Resolution Number 2025-33 to restructure Special Assessment District's SAD fund accounting and establish 800 series capital project funds.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve.
Support.
Is there any support?
Kathy.
Trustee Vosberg. Real quick, this is one of the recommendations that the Woodhill Group has initially made in isolating our SAD funds, and it's the 800 series capital fund projects. What the resident asked is, this helps us isolate SAD districts. There are many different kinds of SAD districts. This will apply to those that are approved and go through the process. It will allow our finance department to actually track the funds when the repayment of the district begins to be made, and it's outside of the capital fund. Again, this is just one of the recommendations that in accounting practices that we are changing with the assistance of the Woodhill Group, and there are more to come. Questions or discussion? Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of touch on the question that was posed by Mr. Kadich when he talked about the SAD and how the districts are formed. So earlier on the agenda, we had a district, a special assessment district that only benefited a fixed sort of area of the community. And so when that district was implemented, it was done at the construction time of that subdivision, and the problem in that area was, how do we deal with rainwater? So home on the other side of the township doesn't have the problem that that subdivision had. So when the special assessment district was created, there was an evaluation of who benefits from the special assessment district, and only those addresses. So that is one form of a special assessment district. But when it is generally considered to be a global district, and that district then benefits the entire township, like our public safety district, that is a township-wide. And being honest, I don't know what the criteria, but Mr. Kadich pointed out, like it seems like there's an opportunity then just to impose a tax. And when I looked at the special assessment district, the creation of the ability for a township to create that, there are benchmarks that must be accomplished to establish that it is a benefit for the entire township. Could you speak on that, or could we get some clarity on the creation of a special assessment district and why it's afforded the board as an option?
You want the legal opinion, or you want the?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind the legal opinion. Like, he's pretty concise.
So he's going to tell you how many districts.
That we used to be. Okay. There's no possibility that the board could approve, with the exception of public safety, there's no possibility that the board could approve a special assessment district that's township-wide. There's typically, there's 3.5 statutes that deal with special assessments in townships. One is the Act 188, which deals with typically roads and water and sewer improvements. There is a lengthy 5-resolution process that the board must go through before it can be imposed, and those are usually all area specific. So subdivision wants to put in a new road, they come to you and ask you for your help. All you do is finance it, they pay for it. Same thing with sewer, same thing with water. So it's limited to those cases typically in which residents will petition the board and ask for your help to build it. The second are the retention basins, which you've already touched on. Most of those are 20, 30-year-old projects. Back in the day when you had plats, which you no longer have, the Land Division Act had a provision in it which said when the developer of a plat of a subdivision needed retention, the owner of the plat, which owned the entire parcel, would come in, say to the township, look, I have to take care of my stormwater. I'm going to do it on site. I want to create a district so that in the future, the people that live in the district will benefit by the retention basin, and they'll all pay their fair share. The third is the street lighting, which you see periodically where a new development will come in. The developer wants to set up a street light. Now, I think, and I'm not an expert on this, but I believe through other clients I have, that DTE these days is more amenable to contracting with the owners in the development, but for many, many years, they did not. And as a result, you couldn't get street lighting because DTE wouldn't pay the bill because they weren't sure they were going to get paid. So DTE would require the owners in the development to come to the township. We pay the bill, and we assess the homeowners within the development for those costs. Those are the three basic. The other half that you have is your public safety. There's Act 33 of 1951. That statute says that you can finance a police and fire department through a special assessment that is township-wide. It is deemed to be an assessment, and that's what you have. And that benefits the entire township. I'm not aware of any other special assessments that would be township-wide that would benefit all of them. So that's it. There's no possibility that anybody could come to the board and ask for a township-wide SAD. You have to have specific enabling authority, and you have to play the rules, just like you do with your police and fire, your public safety. Every single year, you have to have a public hearing. You have to tell the residents how much money you're spending, what you're spending it on. You have to send them a notice. They have an opportunity to come in and give their point of view. And so it's very structured, and again, it's not where the board has a blank check to do it. You have to follow the statute, and those are the 3.5 that allow you to do it.
The particular agenda item, could you clear up the confusion over how does this fit within that configuration?
This has nothing to do with the creation of any of the districts at all. This has to do, as far as I can tell, with how you track your money for the different districts. It has nothing to do with how do you create a special assessment for paving or water or sewer or street lighting or public safety. I read this to say, once those are all created, you got money coming in and you got money going out, and this is a better tracking system. And again, that's it's got nothing to do with.
This isn't an increase in taxes or
No,
in any way like a burden on the taxpayer?
It's how you track your money.
Thank you.
Solely an accounting process, again.
Thank you.
Clerk Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So I'm going to hopefully give a little more background on this. I brought this agenda item forward as Supervisor Kersten alluded to. We've been very, very busy working with the Woodhill Group trying to clean up some of our accounting practices that we can do better. There's no glaring flaws or errors in our system as it sits, but there are things that can be done better. And this is one of the areas that Steve Adair and I identified as being able to do better. And because the clerk is responsible for establishing the chart of accounts and delivering them, warranting them to the treasurer's office for collection, it is incumbent upon the clerk to bring any changes being made to the chart of accounts to the board for approval. That's a requirement. So what we are hoping to do with this agenda item is to take our SADs for retention and detention ponds, street lighting assessments, and all of those special assessment districts that have been developed over the years, and we are going to be now tracking them differently in our accounting system through the 800 series, which is the series identified by the state of Michigan in our accounting manual for the proper series 2. So it's an accounting matter. And so this accounting change will allow us to better track, provide more transparency. We're going to be able to track an SAD from inception through its completion and then through its maturity, as well as then when it is complete, when the SAD is up. So whether that's in perpetuity or it's a 10-year SAD or whatever the case might be. Because of the way we were tracking those special assessment districts, the way we're doing it currently, we don't have that so much. They're kind of all clumped together, and you have to really search through needles and haystacks to try to find the information that you need for audit purposes and so on and so forth. Again, it's all there. It's just this makes it much easier to track, much more transparent, and will further enable our compliance with our audit policies.
Thank you. Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. There's many reasons why this is being set up, but I wanted to explain it from my side of the elephant, so to speak. On the Street, Sidewalk, and Pathway Committee, we work with assessing for the sidewalks, the sidewalk repair program and the sidewalk gap. And then also individual street, homeowners will ask to have their street paved and they pay for it themselves. It was always difficult to know how much money was still due to us because it might be a 5-year assessment, 5-year SAD or a 10-year. And we always had to call when we had our meetings to figure out how much money we had to work with, we always had to call Finance Department. They would pour through the records, and now we will be able to go to one site and take a look at it and be able to see. So for all the reasons stated before, I just wanted to state one more thing that it will be useful for the Street, Sidewalk, and Pathway Committee as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Any further discussion? I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Vosberg, to approve item 10D. Please cast your vote. Votes will appear on the screen when all votes are tallied. Item passes 7-0. Item 10E.
Item 10E is to approve a recommendation by the Human Resources Department to opt in to Public Act PA 152 for the 2026 calendar year and adopt resolution number 2025-35.
So moved.
Trustee Joseph? Was that Trustee Joseph? Supervisor Kersten will support. Floor is yours, sir.
Good evening. I have today with us our members of our insurance brokerage to give a little high-level overview of where our plan has gone that brought us to where we are today with our insurance expenses. This has been a discussion that we've all had about what's the next step for the township, and I was hoping that they could provide a better explanation of where we are and where we are trending towards with our expenses and what the plan is for the township.
Thank you, Sarah. My name is Danielle Leaf. I'm Vice President of Employee Health and Benefits at Marsh McLennan Agency. As Sarah had described, we're here invited today to talk through a little bit about plan performance historically all the way to present, as well as what's going on in the marketplace that's driving some of the cost of these health increases. In addition to that, we'll provide some benchmarking as it pertains to what other public entities are doing right now. So alongside of me, I have my colleagues Greg Sermont and Denise McLaren, our Senior Vice President and Client Directors, who are strategic portions of the team to talk through some of these items.
Great, thank you. As you'll see above here, we've outlined an executive summary of kind of where we're at today in regards to our upcoming renewal from the healthcare benefit perspective. Your renewal is January 1st. We annualize based on making no plan changes. Thank you. No plan changes, that the estimated increase is $724,000, which equates to about 21% for 2026. The Blue Cross, or the MMA rating is aligned with our Blue Cross underwriting terms of actuarial sound methodology and outcome. Basically what that means is we fact check what we get from the carrier, specifically Blue Cross, to make sure that our methods and their methods are aligned, because we do things a little bit differently. Looking at large claims and increasing RX exposure coupled with accelerating trend and forecasting those into 2026. I will leave copies of these with you. There's a lot of data that is in the back of this presentation that you can look at your leisure. But again, this is at a high level what we're looking at thus far. We did also illustrate some alternative funding contribution modeling as was requested, using an 80-20 cost split, 80% the employer, 20% for the employee cost split. And if we simply adopt that, then that increase goes to a little over 53, almost 54,000, or a 1.7% increase, simply making contribution changes. So that is just one consideration on the table. The township claims run rate is about 5.1% compounded annual rate of change for 21 to 26. You'll see there that there's some standard deviation annually of a little over 3,700, and that's per employee per year. We forecasted going into 2026 with a 21% trend. That includes also your stop-loss premium, adjustments for any kind of rebates and administrative fees. We are new to, as the broker for the township, so we simply have the information based on, 25 and then going forward as far as what we can speak to. Okay. I'll make general, this is the right one. There we go. We're also asked to provide some information regarding healthcare trends overall, which is affecting all of our clients, unfortunately. Some of the things that come into play here when we're looking at the renewals and the costs that we're seeing across the board are consolidation of health systems. So I'm sure many of us are familiar with the mergers between the Beaumont and Corwell and the like that you see listed there. So that certainly comes into play. Obviously, we are minimizing the amount of competition we have, which obviously also affects any kind of negotiation that the carriers have, with those hospitals. So that is just one piece of the effect on the healthcare costs as we see it today. Health insurers, financial woes, so Blue Cross, United Healthcare Priority, all of which cited unprofitable years in 2024. That, of course, has a trickle-down effect. Also resulted in any headcounts as far as their staff that they have at all of those carriers. And again, shifting costs to performance-based metrics, hospital systems, and other cost control measures that we're seeing. Increased utilization, this is one of the biggest drivers. We're seeing a lot of high utilization, a lot of chronic conditions, a lot of prescription claims, a lot of high-cost claimants that we're seeing out there, gene therapy medications and things of that nature, really being a big driver of the healthcare spend overall. And then higher cost of care. As I just mentioned, gene therapy and cell therapies, those expensive medications, rising costs of certain conditions, cancer being one of them, and the aging workforce. So some of those things are a little inevitable. All of those things combined are really attributing to the exorbitant costs that we're seeing today. This is just a summary of some of those recent headlines I'm sure you've seen over the past couple of years, even going back to 2023 with some of those mergers I mentioned, and some of the different carrier challenges that we've seen. And it's not just specific to Blue Cross, it's across the board with all of the medical healthcare providers. We're also asked to provide some benchmarking information. So how does the township plans and contributions look and compare to industries that are similar to yourself or the same, as well as similar in size. And looking at your current plan, that high deductible plan, we looked at the deductible, the co-insurance percentages, out-of-pocket maximums, and the co-pays. There's no co-pays because you are in a high deductible plan of this particular example. Looking at the deductibles, so you are in line when it comes to city government, organizations similar in size to yourself. Co-insurance is actually better than benchmark at 100% versus typically we see about 80%, and also above benchmark on that out-of-pocket maximum. So from a plan perspective, you have a very nice high deductible plan in place offering for your members. We also looked at the prescription drug, medical and prescription drug costs and plan costs, contributions. The first set is the monthly premium rate, so that is what that rate is on a monthly basis. And then we broke it out with the employee contributions, which currently is at 0%. Again, being in green, that means it's better than the benchmark. And then we look at the HSA funding portion of that at the 1,000, 2,000. It's red because it's below benchmark, but we're using that primary benchmark comparator plan to benchmark against your numbers. Well, you'll see where it's in line with county governments. So if, at that secondary benchmark comparator plan under county governments, you are in line with what that HSA funding is. Then we looked at the public sector. So we broke this out simply by looking at the public sector benchmark specifically. And then again, you can see the red and the green differentiators there from when we're looking at the employee contributions. For the primary comparator plan, you'll see that the single's at 15% in 2025 or 21% for a family. That is the typically what we're seeing. Now, if you were to look at the secondary benchmark, you're looking at national data with Mercer data, and that's a little bit different at 22 to 23. Any questions? Again, we have copies of these. The appendix has a lot of more in-depth data for you to look at when you at your leisure. So we'll leave that with Sarah. But are there any initial questions that we can answer?
I'll open it up to the board if there's any questions from the board. Trustee Joseph?
Yeah, I appreciate the presentation. I generally feel that have a good handle on the Public Act 152, but I'll be honest, your presentation, and I'm a 1991 graduate of Eastern Michigan, generally considered, Kathy, I think, to be the Harvard of the Midwest, but that was a tough one for me. There's a lot of information in there, and as I process it, and I've talked with our HR people and board members, previous administrations, Public Act 152 has been an issue that our board has wrestled with for as long as I've been on the board. The essence of Public Act 152 creates, and this was legislation that was enacted in 2011. It went into effect January 1st of 2012, and basically what it said is that the state law, in essence, dictates how much a public employer can spend on employee health care. In 2012, they set hard caps, and they said you cannot go over this amount, and they identified single, two-payer, and family rates. That was option one. Option two was there was an 80-20 cost share, meaning that the employer had to pay 80%, the employee 20%. And that premium, that plan could be whatever, as long as there was the 80-20 agreement. I'm a civil servant. I've been my whole career. When I was faced with Public Act 152 13 years ago, I felt the same way that our employees feel today. I understand the concern about the identification of what this plan cost, and then just doing the rough math and say 20%, I'm now going to make X amount money next year less than I made last year. And when I factor that in with the cost of just inflation, my bills go up, and now I'm making less from my employer. I understand the anxiety. I think it's important for our residents and our employees to understand that Public Act 152 is different than our contract negotiations. This board is well aware that the employee 20% will involve some shared problem solving, some shared expense, and the interest isn't in trying to impose a 20% contribution on the employees and balance the health care problem on the backs of the employees. We're not planning to go into the negotiation process with an effort that says you're going to pay 20% and, oh well. This has been debated on every board that I've been on since I was elected 4 terms ago. The idea that we're still here surprises me. And one of our public commenters who talked about Treasurer LaFata, a guy that I have great respect for, was in favor of Public Act 152 3 boards ago. And the reason that I'm in favor of Public Act 152 is not the recouping of 20% of the premium. but I'm going to lay out some areas that maybe you could help me and identify that come with Public Act 152 imposition. I don't know the numbers, and if anybody in that group knows, but from a percentage standpoint, what would you say is the annual increase of health care in comparison to just general inflation? Is there such a ballpark number where you could say, you know, healthcare costs in general have risen year over year X amount?
Good evening. Yeah, certainly there's any variety of surveys that can be referenced both locally, regionally, and nationally, and they tend to cluster in that low double-digit range for 2025, 2026.
10, 11, 12%
Yeah.
annually?
Pharmacy leading the charge at upwards of 18% in some cases.
When I looked at the numbers, and I don't have the expertise that obviously your team does, the failure of the board to impose Public Act 152 at the last contract was roughly in the neighborhood of $2 million additional cost for the taxpayer of the township. Sound about right? And I think moving forward, we really only get one crack at Public Act 152, because if we don't do it before the contracts and it doesn't become part of the negotiating process, we're in essence locked into an opt-out of Public Act 152 for the remainder of the contract. We can't enter into a contract saying that we're going to pay 100% and then vote to opt out of Public Act 152 later on, or vice versa. We're locked in once we simply choose to apply the law. We are voting tonight. If we don't opt out and we enter into a contract, ratifying a contract that says we're 100%, we're committed to the opt-out for the remainder of the contract term. You can't come in midstream and say, we're not opting out, and by the way, you got 20%. They're going to say, we have a contract. It was ratified. When the legislation went into place in 2012, you had the 80-20, the hard cap, or option 3, which was the municipality by, I think it's a supermajority, could opt out. Could opt out and say, we're going to just pay whatever we want to pay. In the hard cap comparison, our hard cap for 2026, I understand, for a family is $21,000 and some change. That is the max the township can spend on the hard cap. Our current plan is a $30,000 and set to go up 10 to 12, maybe more, over the course of the next several years. The benefit is not just in the money, because what also comes with the 80-20 share is a word that I was introduced to in our last closed session, and that is the concept of consumerism. So when the employee, for example, is now a 20% partner with the taxpayer, and they have a decision about where to fill a prescription, and this pharmacy offers the prescription at this amount, and this pharmacy offers the prescription at a 30% savings. It does nothing to the employee to go to whatever pharmacy is convenient, maybe the one on the way home, maybe the one closest to the grocery store, whatever, because they're not paying anything more than the copay for the prescription. So when you institute a 20%, you now have a vested partner in trying to keep the cost down. The other area that is, the numbers are just spectacular when it comes to the taxpayer, is the idea of a family insurance plan. We have no provisions within our current contracts and our current insurance that as a family, if my spouse is offered insurance at their employer, they can insure me, I can insure them, and we have dual coverage. If the dual coverage as my primary the township for this example. The township is my primary coverage. To submit all of the bills, whatever's left over in the way of co-pays, deductibles, so forth, gets sent over to my supplemental insurance. So if I'm an employee and I'm covering my spouse, or in this case, in the township, we could actually have dependent children who are adults and working and have their own insurance, there is a reciprocity there. So the leftover on my hospital stay sent over to the spouses. Maybe I save $800 on the bill. The township pays $30,000 for a family plan to, in essence, act as a savings mechanism for the employee of only maybe a couple of $1,000s. In an 80-20 cost share, I think the employee has to decide, is it worth a 20% of a $30,000 policy to have simply a supplemental plan? That is another example of consumerism. Infusion of GLP-1 medication is hundreds of thousands of dollars in this township. There are no contractual obligations for the GLP-1 medication to be prescribed for a condition of diabetic. So typically these medications are very helpful in the treating of diabetes. They also have the benefit of weight loss. We have many insurance carriers, most that I'm aware of, certainly the same ones that I'm adhering to at the county, do not allow GLP-1 medications to be prescribed for simply weight loss. There are others that have a more liberal policy, and if the patient falls within a BMI requirement and they're perhaps maybe a comorbidity and the weight loss is seen as something that could benefit them, they must adhere to maybe working with a nutritionist and document their BMI reduction process in order to get that prescription covered. We don't have any of that here in the township. We don't have any of that here in the township because there is no partnership in the cost share of that medication. That is another example of consumerism. So I think, and what I would like to do, is I would like to apply Public Act 152, and then at the negotiating table, which we can talk about in closed session, we can say to the employees, this is not an exercise in simply trying to recoup 20% of our health care costs on your backs. But the interest-based, issue-based negotiating process, I would like to engage in a process that says the why. We introduce into the negotiation the why behind this move. And the why is that we have runaway health care costs that are outpacing our residents' ability to pay. Unchecked, this will bankrupt the township. There is absolutely no way that this current trend is sustainable with 100% copay. In the private sector, and a lot of people come to the podium and they say, in my world, in the real world, in the business world, and one of those speakers came forward tonight, and this idea of if you don't opt out, that somehow, and unfortunately over the weekend, we saw some social media presence from some of our employees. One in particular hit me particularly hard, and that was from a member of our law enforcement community who talked about basically the same things that one of our public members talked about, and that this $400 or $600 imposition, that's a premature conclusionary finding that is not in evidence in any way at this point. The intent from HR is to maintain the current plan, sit at the negotiating table and talk about the why. There's no reasonable person in the township that comes forward that doesn't look at the potential consumerism element of this and start to begin to make policies that really reflect shareholder status And I'm very confident, and I'm sorry, I'm going on too long, but the issue that hit me hard was this idea that there was this rallying cry that was sent out to the public, get down to the board meeting because they're going to wreck the employees. And the reason that I took it kind of hard is because it came from a member of our public safety team. And, you know, politics are kind of tough sometimes. I can't speak for anybody on the board with the exception of Trustee Anderson, and I feel, jump in if I'm wrong, Hank, but we've spent hours at each other's homes around contract times looking at problems specifically in our public safety department. We had a problem in this community. Insurance, healthcare was one of them, but where our police department was on the ropes, they were on the ropes. We sat down with the union members in the IAFF, and at that time they had more money in their fund, and the police department they were underwater, and we had a couple of failed millages, and we were facing layoffs in the Township Police Department. Trustee Anderson and I, we formed a police layoff moratorium committee. We sat down in a non-bargaining year, and we said we have a $1.9 million deficit. The issue before us is the solvency of our police department. Let's collaborate and brainstorm on how to do that. Police officers, and through their union representative, gave up hundreds of thousands of dollars in a plan to keep the officers without being laid off, so that we didn't go below a safe level of patrolmen on the road. Several years later, we found ourselves in a difficult situation where the police department was again on the ropes, and it was the fire department that saved them. They partnered with the PD and the board in a collaborative way. We formed a public safety special assessment district, and when we sat down and we shook hands and we said, Trustee Anderson and I looked these men in the face, and the firefighters, they saved the police department. That's what our unions do. That's what they do when you enact a consumerism and you talk about what is the shared problem. The shared problem in this community is we have runaway health care, and that's not unique to us. How do we solve it? We don't just impose a 20% premium on the unions and say to our employees, you know, you just deal with it. We first establish the rules, and the rules are really just nothing more than the state law. The state law that's been around since 2012. The county went to it immediately. A number of neighboring communities went to it, and progressively over the years, more and more fall into it. The ones that don't, or the ones that didn't in the last contract cycle, I understand, were able to supplement their hemorrhaging healthcare budget by the utilization of ARPA funds. Those ARPA funds are a one-time only, as far as we know, and they're going to face the same kinds of problems that we're facing, which come to us at contract time. The idea that a township employee, and in this case, a member of the police department, would rally the troops and send the residents in to remind this board, in particular, not to be a baby about it, but personally me, that I need a reminder from the residents that I need to support the public safety, incensed me. And I let some of the officials know in the various unions, and I was proud and happy to hear from the command, from the patrol, and from the firefighters who said, listen, we don't support that kind of thing. We have faith in our ability to negotiate with the board. We're happy to hear that the board is not simply trying to impose a 20% compensation axe to our compensation package, and we will work out the details at the negotiating table. We have faith in our union leaders and faith in the board that they will hear our concerns and not do anything punitive just by the enacting of Public Act 152. We need more of that spirit from our employees. Again, I vow to support 100% a shared responsibility that infuses the consumerism and gets our healthcare as much as we can control in our own destiny, and be able to have a vibrant future and not send all of the taxpayer money to Blue Cross. So appreciate that you coming here today, and I know that the rest of the board has questions, and thank you, Mr. Supervisor, for indulging me.
You briefed that pretty well. Just going to add, agree with the majority of your comments made, and just a couple of comments myself. I really don't have any. The market is what it is. We've been aware of that since the beginning of the year, basically, here. Just to add on to what the Trustee Joseph said, I really wished the approach going into labor negotiations this year was just open and transparency with the union members. Get them in front of HR, let them sit down and discuss this. The dissatisfaction or the reason to go out to a social media campaign to try and rally people is just absolutely unnecessary. I don't work that way. HR is not working that way, and obviously, as our brokers, you are not. We're looking at all options. As Trustee Joseph indicated, we're not looking to slam anybody, but this needs to be a discussion that takes place at the negotiating table, and it doesn't help out here in public. Those are discussions that take place behind, and then we'll discuss it with the employees on individual union levels directly. So I appreciate you coming here tonight. I appreciate the last minute notice of Sarah reaching out to you. We'll continue down this road in discussions. You've opened the door for us, enlightened the eyes, at least on my side, even more. So with that being said, I'll end my comments. Are there any more questions from the board members directly? Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. You mentioned that you'll have this information that you gave us available to us, and I would just ask that we put it on post it so that everybody can see it, the public can see it if they want to, and the employees as well. Thank you.
Clerk Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The clerk's office did receive 2 letters, communications from the public, and they were asked to be read into the record.
Mr. Supervisor, just from a parliamentary procedure, Cindy, can I talk?
Sure.
Well, I can't ask for acknowledgement to the supervisor. There are no comments afforded members of the audience who are here that wish to comment on this. So reading a record from a public on an agenda item seems to be prohibitive, and it's not really consistent with our board rules. I would object to the reading of any comments on an agenda item when they're not afforded to members of the public who are present.
I'm going to agree with that, and I'd just say receive and file.
Excuse me, members of the public had their opportunity during public comments in the first 3 minutes. These individuals did not. So I just saved it for the item. I thought it was more appropriate, but the public did have their opportunity in the first 3 minutes to address agenda items. These members of the public submitted written comments.
They would have been read. I think your argument would have been stronger if they had been read within the 3-minute time frame at public comments, not during an agenda item. And those pages look pretty thick. I don't think those are 3-minute comments, but I would object in terms of the order. I don't think your argument has merit because this is an agenda item, and we have a board rule that says there's no comments during during agenda items from the public.
Well, that would have been my mistake. I don't think they should suffer from my mistake.
I'm going to agree with Trustee Joseph, receive and file with the item, as we did with the package that came with it.
Okay?
I tend to agree.
Not a problem. I just, then in that case, want the board members to be aware, the public to be aware, the clerk's office did receive 2 letters from the public.
Emails.
Yes, emails, letters from the public that will be recorded.
Thank you.
Not to belabor the point, Mr. Supervisor, but the 2 comments that came to the podium, the board members had an opportunity to respond. These comments that come to the clerk and only to the clerk are not really, it was not shared with the township board. I perhaps would have liked to have responded to the comment in the deliberations, which is what every public participant, when they come to the podium, they speak on the agenda item. I typically when the agenda item comes up, try to answer their question as I did with Mr. Kadich and Mr. Spica. So I would encourage the clerk, when she receives communication, to not treat that as a correspondence between her and the board. Her and the individual. It's a board communication. It should come to the board. And I feel like it's a little bit sandbaggy and blindsiding. So share those emails with the board if you intend to make them public record as a public comment.
Mr. Supervisor, if you don't mind, these were both sent to the board. The board members all received these, just so everybody knows.
Okay, thank you.
Also, I have some additional comments if I'm
Okay.
allowed.
Yes.
Thank you. So I look at this a little differently than my colleagues who've spoken before do. I think by adopting the 80-20, it's great for people who don't know how to negotiate. If you're a good negotiator, you might end up with 80-20 anyway. But the fact is that if we adopt the 80-20, the PA 152, you're pigeonholing yourself into working your entire negotiations around 80-20. You might be able to negotiate any 20 anyway. You don't need PA 152. You don't have to opt into it to come up with 80-20. You might be able to do that in the course of negotiations anyway. But what if during the course of negotiations there's a benefit to having a conversation about 90-10, that you're going to receive some other benefits that might actually benefit management in our case, and we play for the House, might benefit management to go with a 90-10 or a 70-30. Or a 50-50, or perhaps like it was suggested, and I actually thought wouldn't be a bad idea to explore the opportunity or the possibility of getting out of the healthcare business and just saying, here's a selection of plans we'll make available to you. We're going to allow you X amount of dollars and you can choose your own. I thought that was a really interesting, it actually came from the supervisor. I thought it was a great idea. I love that. That's really consumerism, because now it's 100% on the employee in terms of what their selection of benefits will be. They're all given the same amount. I mean, we hadn't fleshed that out, but I think that 80-20 pigeonholes us and limits our options for negotiating, saying, well, we've got 80-20, the board passed that, now we have to work everything else around that, and that might be cost of living adjustments, it might be more salary, that might end up costing us more with taxes and all of those other associated employee costs. If our goal is 80-20 because of the environment, and I'm not denying anything that's been presented here today, I just see it differently, that if reasonable people sit down at the table together and they say, look, we can't absorb the $700,000 increase, they're going to say, yeah, okay, I guess you're right, but where can we meet somewhere in the middle? That's the art of negotiation. So I'm not at the table. I wish I were. I've sat across the table from many of you through the years, and I think that we've had some really productive conversations. I don't know who's across the table from you now. I think I know, but I'm not sure. But my no vote tonight on opting into PA 152 has nothing to do with a lack of understanding. It has nothing to do with not wanting to be fiscally conscious or aware of the taxpayers that I know pay for that. It's a matter of a negotiating strategy, and I think that we limit our negotiating strategy when we jump into this now, as opposed to maybe getting a little farther on down the road. So I'll be voting no on this item tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor? I don't know if you have a round two, if there's anybody else in round one.
Does anyone else want to comment? I'll go back to you, Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, I just want to hit on a couple of points. This idea of the art of the deal and the art of the negotiation. Public Act 152 has been around, as I said, since 2012. My recollection is that we are now on our fourth contract. I say we, Clerk Berry and I, along with Trustee Anderson, this is our fourth contract. As a full-time board member, I know that in previous boards, you could have been a member, I don't know if you were, of the negotiating team. I'm just curious, one, it's a rhetorical question, so I don't really need an answer. I think if the savvy negotiators of previous administrations and previous negotiating teams had saw an opportunity to strike a better deal than Public Act 152 employs with the consumerism that we talked about, this board would have done it. We haven't because it's almost impossible to negotiate a 20% reduction without the effect of a state law. Public Act 152 mandates, it eliminates the I think we could do this, and I think we could do that. It's just a strict set of rules that all public employees are subjected to. I don't even want to expound this conversation any further with regard to the concept of giving people, I don't know what the suggestion is, but a basket of money if we were going to mimic the hard cap and we said, we're not providing anything, go out into the world and secure your own health care plan. So for your family of 4, here's $21,000, and call Blue Cross and say, what would they give you for a plan with a employment pool of 4? So the actuarial information regarding, well, one cancer then makes that policy, what, $100,000 a year? The idea of an individual, when the first part of your presentation dealt with the mergers of all, I was actually at an event today for St. John, I believe, is now Henry Ford, right? St. John and Henry Ford. It was a pediatric, the Cotton family pediatric for Henry Ford Hospital was the event today. One of the representatives from that organization said in their presentation that they are now the largest healthcare provider in the state of Michigan, and did a little woo-hoo for us, 50,000 employees. So you think about the magnitude of all of the consolidation, and then here we have a proposal that says, I don't think Public Act 152 is a good idea. Maybe we could give the employees $21K and they can go out and get their own plan. It's just ludicrous, and I would just say to my fellow board members, without getting too in the weeds here, I think the art of the deal, which I appreciate, and the savvy negotiation renders my colleague in an unfavorable position in that as these bargaining units sit down with HR and they negotiate an offset for their 20% in the form of a percentage of their pay increase or a employment adjustment or a signing bonus or an FSA contribution or any of the myriad of opportunities that we have to offset the 20%. Unfortunately for my colleague, she's not represented in a bargaining unit, but she is a recipient of the health care. She will pay the 20%, and it will be a reduction in her overall compensation. So I think maybe the about face on Public Act 152 from previous discussions has more to do with that and less to do with the art of the deal. But I digress.
Thank you.
Aye.
Clerk Barry.
No,
Can we-
I'm not going to get any back and forth, Mr. Supervisor. I'm above that. You guys know that. Yeah, some are, some aren't. But I just wanted to clarify, I wasn't suggesting that people get a ton of money and go out on their own. What I was suggesting is that the township negotiate for several different plans, similar to what some people would know as a cafeteria plan, and say, here are the options for you. Choose from among these options what works best. And so, again, it's giving more choice. Do we have a large enough group for that? That's a question. I don't know if we do or not. But the fact still remains that we really are, I believe, weakening our negotiating position and limiting our choices by adopting PA 152. So, and in the past, I have been in favor of 152. But in the past, I had a lot more information than I have now. I can't, it's incredibly limited and very confusing. There's a lot of numbers that are floating out there. I think there's people in this room that would acknowledge that, you know, you get different answers depending on who you ask, different numbers change. And they're changing for us too when we ask. So, you know, I think that there's a number of things that are being looked at. I feel that it is a stronger position for the township to be able to go into the negotiating room with having more options rather than less. thank you for allowing me to clarify that, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Thank you for standing there. Any closing comments for you? I'll offer it to you.
No, thank you for your perspectives and comments, enlightening, and just know that we're here to support you along your journey, whatever that decision.
Thank you and your group for coming. I have a motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by Supervisor Kersten, to approve item 10E. Please vote. The results will appear on the screen once all votes are cast. Motion passes 5-2. Am I reading that right? 5-2? Can't see that far. Motion passes 5-2. Item 11, addendums. There are no addendums tonight. Item 12, public comments. There's a 3-minute time limit. The mic is open.
Ellen Polkowski, Shire Road, Chesterfield. Is it possible to make any public comments at this point for Agenda 10E? Can we still make a comment and attend it?
Yeah, you're free to comment on it.
Okay, all right, perfect. There wasn't any necessarily rallying the troops at all. Our citizens, and me in particular, we really do support public safety. Now, Trustee Joseph probably remember many years ago that the board had an opportunity, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, to get a contract with Macomb County Sheriff Department and eliminate our public safety. It didn't do that. I believe it was turned down. We have public safety. I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the biggest budget item in the current budget and probably the future budget for 2026. We're here now. We support our public safety, primarily the men and women who are on patrol late at night. I would ask each and every one of you to kindly do a ride-along on a weekend during the midnight shift. And I think when you go to negotiations or you go to this 80-20, you'll have a fresh eyes to see what our men and women go through. And congratulations to our new officer, Isabella and Hunter. But they've got quite a lot on their hands, especially the small amount of officers that they do have. So please keep that in mind. We want them fairly compensated. We want them to have health care that they need for their families, and we want them happy. You may have known, some of you, that I have over the 14 years have had burglaries, I've had vandalism, and I have a historic farm. And I'm concerned that I want to make sure, which I've heard through the Department of Public Safety, that crime is increasing. I want police officers, men and women, on patrol, making sure that they are happy and enjoying the jobs. Please keep that in mind with them. Now, to help with the budget, this has never been brought up before, but it's been done at Oakland County Sheriff, Macomb County Sheriff, Wayne County Sheriff, Detroit Police Department. If you want to do like some municipalities like Garden City and you want to have a free volunteer reserve program, I could help you put that together. That does help cut your costs down and relieves a lot of the pressure on the rank and file patrol officers, men and women. And I just want to end by saying thank you for your service to all veterans and happy Veterans Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Karen, how do you turn this off? John Speaker, Chesterfield Township. I want to give you an example. You wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're getting ready to go to work, and all of a sudden, you've got bleeding, profusely bleeding, okay? You have to call 911 immediately. You need an ambulance to your house, and you need public safety, hopefully, to respond for you, okay? What our men and women, whether they're police and fire, there's no dollar amount that you could put on the safeties of every individual in this township. And I agree with this gentleman 100%. I don't even know who he is, but I agree with him 100%. He was spot on. Until you put yourself in the situation, like he said, and do it right along with our men and women, you just don't get it. Until you're in the situation to where you need a medical emergency or a police emergency or your house is on fire, you just don't get it. You can't put a price on public safety. And I guess until you experience it, you really don't understand the value of public safety. So our men and women, I will always support our men and women. And as far as, I go back to these raises that you gave yourselves, you know what? Why don't you take your raises back? That's a starting point there. Why don't we do that? And why don't we stop giving ourselves these ridiculous 13 to 20% raises? Why don't we give them to the men and women that deserve it, that save lives every day? And Mr. Supervisor, the ARPA funds, there are no ARPA funds because you blew through the ARPA funds. Had you not used that $2.8 million for that dilapidated 50-year-old asbestos-filled building, then we would have a safety net here to pick up the majority of the costs. Cindy, I couldn't disagree with you more as far as asking, our employees to get their own health care. I mean, that there, to me, that was probably one of the most ridiculous statements, but you're entitled to your opinion. Healthcare costs are so expensive that no employee could afford it without pooling. That's the only way that you can afford it. And let's look at the money. You want to look at saving? Well, you guys brought on a deputy clerk and a deputy treasurer. You know what you added? Almost $500,000 to the budget in 4 years. Why don't we look at getting rid of the waste in the township? That's where it should start. And my comments from Mr. LaFata were about non-essential versus essential items. So there's a lot of non-essential going on. That's where we need to start.
Any more comments from the public?
Joe Kadich, I'd like to remind Supervisor that my name is Joe Kadich. We've known each other for over 10 years, and referring to me as that individual last week, I think it deserved more respect than that. I'd like to kind of agree with what Trustee Joseph was saying, except there was one thing when you brought about when the police department is in trouble and everybody was scrambling, trying to take costs out, and that one thing that brought out, and we didn't get any resolution till after they had brought into the, whatever we call them, the sad thing. Their cost, there were 40 officers in that department at that time, and their cost for the insurance was averaging $35,000 an individual. And there was no bargaining on their point to that. That's what time that they should have been brought back in. It could have saved us from having to go to the sad agreement. I'm sorry to say that. I hope you get more responsibility on their part and from the rest of the people. It's a tough situation. Looking at how insurance costs have soared the last 10 years, it's just unbelievable. Beyond that, I wanted to get back to the first thing, which is on the way you're going to fund or account for the funds on the SAD agreements. I still have a problem with that. And I think I know what's bringing all this about, these changes about. I don't know if you want to announce anybody yet, but we succeeded in getting the Treasury Department of the state of Michigan to audit your funds. And we asked them to go back for future years. You're cleaning up the second year. You brought all these people in here to try and cover your tracks as to where money was spent from the Water and Sewer Department that we paid into and never got depreciation replacement on any of this. So they're coming out here to look at that, and I'm sure that's what brought this about. I'm sure that's why the finance director left. And all of a sudden, you're spending $200,000 to get Woodhill Group in here, and now you even added another $30,000 for Public Affairs Department. Kind of obvious what's going on here. Shake your head. Let's see what happens when they do the audit.
Any more comments from the public? Bring it back up to the board. We have item 14, closed session. Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to go into closed session. I'm sorry, jumped over it. 13, board comments. Comments from the board. Trustee Anderson, you want to start tonight?
Hindsight is great. You know, we can look back, what should have been done, good point, but it's history. That ship sailed. The other comment I heard, due respect, is idea of a reserve for our police department. Let's not stop there. Let's talk about the fire department also. I had the opportunity to work in a community south of here, 60s through 80. I had the opportunity to work on midnight by myself, and my hospitalization wasn't paramount to me when I did my job. Getting back to my first point about getting reserves, I understand it's something noble and sound. If we need more help with our fire department, with our public safety, with our police department, let's hire the people. We don't need individuals, like we used to say with my old employer. They had the police reserves, good people, well-meaning, they work for nothing. And we'd talk with them, hey, what do you work? Oh, Ford, do you mind if I come work on a line? A couple of us on our days off, we'll come work for free. Is that okay? Oh, no, we got a contract. We can't allow that. What I'm saying is that if what you're saying there, it just kind of, with all the discussion tonight, all the hardship and everything that'll happen regarding medical, this is the one, I don't know, it just caught me the wrong way. I don't believe the department needs reserves, of volunteers out there. If we need more sworn people, both in fire and in police, let's hire them. Anyhow, have a good night, have a good Veterans Day, take care.
Trustee Jones?
Thank you. I agree with Trustee Anderson, the idea of reserves. I understand the taking the sort of the some of the burden off, but I agree. Firefighting, law enforcement, those are professional careers. I want to see professionally trained and compensated personnel. We have a public safety director, we have a fire chief. They collaborate and meet, talk about proper staffing that keeps our residents safe and our public safety team safe. We have an obligation to fund that. My commitment to public safety, both in the fire and the police department, is not Public Act 152 relevant. I feel very, very confident I can do both. I don't need to wake up in the morning bleeding. And I don't know if you intended to say this, the jab is, if they respond. I can assure you that our public safety team is not political. They don't care if somebody came out and said, I think maybe we should go to the sheriff's department. We have had individuals that have made that. If you needed the police department, they're not going to change their response time to you because you had an opinion about how we fund public safety. So that's a weird comment. The comparison to Treasurer LaFata, and I know that his loss will be felt in many ways, but one of the things that Treasurer LaFata did is he sent an email, maybe 2-3 times a week sometimes, and he has a long list of CCs. I could always tell from the comments at the podium what the flavor of Treasurer LaFata's emails were, because they were parroted in a not so eloquent and intelligent way, but the individual does their best, and I'll miss those emails, but I won't miss the exposure to the lack of creativity and problem solving that comes from the same empty tin can at the podium time and time and time again. My commitment to the public safety team is beyond reproach. I looked in the eyes of the firefighters when they bailed out the police department. I said to them, I will never forget the sacrifice that they made to our public safety team. And it's not my love of the public safety team in a vacuum that has my commitment. I fundamentally believe at my core that the number one responsibility of a government, an elected official, is to keep the public safe. To that end, I am fully in support of a well-trained, well-funded, well-insured public safety team. Public Act 152, calling in my credibility as it relates to my commitment to the public safety team, as I said in my comments when the issue was discussed, I got a little upset because it came from a member of the team. I later learned from the union officials that perhaps what I saw on social media was an unenlightened reaction to the impact of Public Act 152, and that the more senior and more knowledgeable members of the public safety team would reach out and explain that during the negotiating process, the employees would be made whole, and we would provide both, get a handle on the runaway insurance costs, because we're going to share in that, and we're not going to do it with them having a 20% buy-in. So talking about somebody waking up bleeding, and it's just bizarre, but it has nothing to do, and I appreciate your comments, sir, about your concerns about how Public Act 152 impacts the overall vitality of our public safety team. I think that's a natural response. I can just say to you and anybody else who thinks that way, that we will make sure that our public safety team is compensated appropriately, because it's in the best interest of our township to have that commitment. And we will do that in a way that allows us to get a handle on our health care. I don't know in the private sector. I know in the public sector that I work at, Public Act 152 has been a part of my life since its imposition in 2012. I don't know what your employer offers in the way of health care, but I don't think it's a $30,000 policy for family. It is not without significant sharing. Private sector employees just really don't have, as a rule, the same kind of situation that we have here. And this is a delicate balance. It's your money that pays that, and it's also a commitment to make sure that we have a strong public safety team. So it's a delicate process. We will finish the process at the negotiating table, and I'll just say in my final, the public safety team is unfortunately or fortunately a little bit different than some of our other bargaining units, because what is the value of a firefighter? What is the value of a police officer? It's not a unlimited. It is really in all respects what the market commands. And if you apply sort of this free agency, we can't get firefighters, we can't get police officers. There's a highly competitive with our neighboring communities for staff, for competent firefighters, for competent police officers. We must, if we don't anticipate or want to lose our police officers and firefighters to neighboring communities, we have an obligation to make sure that they are properly paid and compensated with health care and with competitive salaries and all the like. So we may have to do some things that are a little bit different with our public safety team than we do with other unions. The two people that voted not, to opt out or to not implement Public Act 152, I think it's important to note, will not have the benefit of an employee union negotiating on their behalf to recoup their 20% cost. If they receive health care as elected officials, they will pay the 20%. I hope that didn't have anything to do with their vote.
Trustee Rumper? Trustee Rossberg? Treasurer Elliott? Clerk Berry?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So I think that my perspective is often very different here on the board, especially when it comes to items like this. My perspective, and this is how I see it, almost everything that I do here is seen through the lens of an executive and a business owner and an entrepreneur, because that's what I've been my whole life. I think I'm the only one at the table who's ever had employees, who's ever had a business. I've had multiple businesses. I've had many employees over the years. I've bought health insurance. I've seen it on the other side in the private sector. And I've seen it here as a member of the negotiating team in some way or other, this board, in the public sector here. So that's the perspective I come from. I'm not faulting anyone else for their position or I'm not saying I'm right and they're wrong or anything like that. I'm not making any disparaging comments about my colleagues. I have too much respect for them and for the offices and for all of you who voted for them, putting them here. So I don't make those comments. But if you want to know why I'm voting the way I'm voting, I've always said, come and talk to me. I'll tell you why I vote how I vote. I know exactly why. And I've got, almost 13 years of experience here. And I've got, like many of us, 25 years experience in the private sector. So I've been buying health insurance a long time. This is the first job I've actually had other than when I worked for the state legislature where I actually had health insurance provided. I've always had to buy my own. So I'm very much consumer minded, but I also know some of the other little things that we can do to massage those plans. And I also know the market that we can explore. And I'd be happy to share my expertise with the team when they ask me for it. But I do bring that to the table, and I hope to use that for the benefit of the township, which is always my intent. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Treasurer Elliott?
Thank you. I wasn't going to say anything. But I also don't like the narrative that has been said on my behalf. And I know that there's a couple of months for a lot of the employees who have to prepare for this decision tonight. And I know the stress that that's causing. And I think that the way that this was handled is the anxiety and the fear and the real consequences to this decision for the employees is real. And I want the employees to know that I acknowledge that and I understand that. And that is the reason why for my no vote. And so I'll speak that on my own behalf. And I also want to acknowledge there's some bad information that keeps getting shared over and over and over again. And of course, the perpetual candidate brings it up every time he's here. And so if you go back, and I want you to go ahead and take a look at the budget book, and if you go back and you look at wages from 2020 until now, and they're all in the budget book, and if you look at the elected officials, the average wages have increased for elected officials from 2020 to 2025 around 3% for the 3 full-time electeds. I didn't waste my time with the trustees because it's not significant. But if you take a look at some of the there are some employees who have increased over 11% annually from 2020 to 2025. Nobody in my office. And I think that is something that is bad information that comes. And I know that there was no increase to the elected officials for a time period, and then there was a big jump. But I want to just acknowledge the fact that jump averaged about 3% a year. Also, want to acknowledge that there's a lot of things I think that we could take a look at and probably sharpen our pencils on, and I'm willing to do that. But there isn't much more that I can do if we as a board don't communicate, and I think that's one of the difficulties here at the township, is that the board does need to do a better job communicating. Thank you.
It's a few topics. We do have a closed session tonight. So I want to acknowledge a long historical paper here, the Voice News. Voice News shut down as of Wednesday this week. I want to call out Caitlin Larice. Caitlin Larice has been a local resident that turned reporter, and she's been an advocate for this community for a very long time, and she sent a very nice email to all the elected officials, and I just want to recognize her. She's not moving on to the Macomb Daily, so she says she wants to stay involved in this community. But again, she's been a great reporter. I'm not agreed with her on many of her articles, and I'm sure several people haven't, but a great person, a great mother, and she's going to be sadly missed. We had the honor and privilege of hosting Congresswoman Lisa McLean this week. She asked for a regional visit. We met with her. We had good discussions with her. A great partner for us in this community, and we're going to have ongoing conversations with her. The negative impact of the state budget that was approved, the revenue sharing, we took a significant hit, not just us in Chesterfield. Townships across Michigan took a significant hit. We were fortunate to partner with Senator Hertel, who, after extensive lobbying, him and Representative DeBoyer, we were able to get at least portions of some of that of money back from the state in project money. So we'll look forward to that in the 2026. I'll present that to you. We have a meeting upcoming with, as you know, some of the money from the state budget was redirected to the Department of Roads in each county. Roughly $30 million has come into Macomb County. We hope to meet with them. We have a meeting scheduled with them in the coming week to discuss how they plan to implement it equitably across all the communities here in Macomb County, and we'll obviously the Streets and Pathways group will be participating in that. As I said earlier, the budget draft will be done. My hope is that you will have it by the end of this week. We'll have Mr. Adair here from Woodhill Group. We'll continue to make alteration and changes in how we prepare and draft and then maintain our budget. That's going to be an ongoing event through the years while he is here. I want to clear the table on public safety. We got sidetracked. Public safety is not in jeopardy here. And any indication or any notion, people walking out in the public, that public safety isn't, we have a health care issue. The health care issue is systemic throughout this state and through every surrounding community that we are near or partnered with. We are the last community that imposed 152. We have been generous, and I'm a benefactor of this township's generosity for 36 years, and I'm proud of that. We will take care of our employees in public safety. Is it going to happen at the negotiating table, where this tonight's discussion should be? Absolutely. And as Trustee Joseph and every official up here has indicated, we are not going to break our employees over health care. We will sort this out and figure it out. So public safety discussion of not responding, that is a terrible conversation to come to the podium and have. These men and women are out there every day, jumping into trucks, doing what they do without hesitation, and they don't care who it is. So don't come to the podium and spew that nonsense. That is ridiculous, and it's disingenuous not only to us as elected officials, but to the men and women that serve both in police and fire. And it's not just police and fire, it's the entire township staff. So stop the nonsense. It's absolutely ridiculous. We have a health care issue nationwide. That's what we are addressing here, and we're trying to live within the budget. One last comment. Mr. Kadich, yes, I called you individual. The reason I called you individual is because you don't offer respect. You want respect, I'll give you respect, but it's a two-way street. Doesn't have to happen. You come to the podium and again, you go off on misinformation that you don't know about. Every elected official is up here, every department head is available to you to discuss what's happening. You choose not to. You choose to come to the podium and create some narrative that is off base. You want the state revenue department to come in, Treasury to come in here and audit? We have clean audits all the time. They're aware of them, and just so you know, we file with the state. That process is done. If there's an issue with our bookkeeping, they would call us. The separation of the finance director has nothing to do with any misdeeds, none whatsoever. We are going in a different direction, period. And the direction is openness, transparency, establish of funds where the public can see them, know what they're paying for, and know what they're getting across all boards. Again, I ask you, stop it. Stop the disinformation nonsense. There's nobody here that appreciates it, and there's no reason for it. With that being said, I'll close my comments. I'll make a motion to enter into item 14, closed session at 8:56. Is there any,
We
hang
have
on.
to say why we're going into closed session.
Clerk Barry, would you read why we're going into closed session?
Item 14A is to go into closed session of the board to discuss labor relations strategy pursuant to Section 8C of the Open Meetings Act.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion. Is there any support? Trustee Anderson, all those, or Clerk Barry, call the roll.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Hold up, folks, we're in a meeting still. Hold up, folks, we're still in a meeting. Hey, Kevin, we're still in a meeting.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Hornberger. Aye. Trustee Bossberg. Aye. Treasurer Elliott. Clerk Barry, aye.
Closed session at 8:57. Good.
It's mine. The only jacket I have, don't throw it away.
Okay, Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to return to open session. Is there any support? Support. Trustee Joseph at 10:07. Clerk Berry, call the roll.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson. Trustee Hornberger. Trustee Vosberg. Treasurer Elliott. Clerk Berry, aye.
We are back in open session at 10:07. Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to adjourn. Is there any support? Trustee Vosberg, all those in favor?
Aye.